Hi, Robyn Swadling here again. Thanks for returning to one of my videos. This one is part 2 from the one before where I talk about our local portrait prize that's been on in town. And I entered 2 entries to this one. It's biannual, so it's every second year. So I thought, well, why not put 2 in? And so this is the second one. It's called Rattlesnake Willie, which is the stage name of a local musician in our town. A dearly loved musician, real character. And I'm pleased to announce I actually gained second prize in this art show with this painting. I'll tell you a little bit about Rattlesnake Willie. Sometimes you'll see him busking out on the street, playing in various pubs and venues around our area. My husband was telling me a story about Rattlesnake Willie, and he was saying that one of his colleagues was telling him a story how I think it was his kids, and they went on some big music festival and there were heaps of people. It got washed out and they spent a fortune, and it was like really not a pleasant experience for them. And so the next time they all got together, they went camping and they decided to hire Rattlesnake Willie, and he came out to their campsite and he did a whole lot of like bush songs and folk songs and all sorts of stuff. And they reckon it's the best night they've ever had. So, yeah, if you're looking for some entertainment and you're coming up here to camp in the Barrington Tops or around the Gloucester area, then, yeah, keep it in mind. For this painting, I wanted it to do more than simply depict him as a person. I aim to tell a story, to capture not just Rattlesnake Willie's appearance, but also to express his character and charismatic spirit within this painting. The medium applied is acrylic paint, and the genre is realism, and I've subtly stylised it to evoke a warm emotional connection for the viewer. So yeah, everyone loves Rattlesnake Willie, so here's my painting. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. I've sketched up my picture onto my canvas. It was a little bit of a challenge sketching it up because on the photo that I had of him, he was actually wearing a cap, and I wanted to put his signature black akubra hat on his head, so I had to sketch that on separately. Yeah, but I'm happy with the result. The main base colour I use here is one of my favourite colours. It's called Payne's Grey, and I use it a lot throughout my artworks. I like that it's got a bit of a blue tinge to it, and you can also mix like some red tones with it, make it darker, and it's so much better than using black because it just doesn't end up looking flat. And I also used ultramarine blue for some of the highlights, just to give it like a shiny look to the guitar. I also find that the more layers you do with the Payne's Grey, it becomes darker and gives it some depth. I wanted the viewers to feel an immediate connection to him, making them curious about his life's journey, visual details like the US Army shirt and well-worn guitar bearing the name Rattlesnake Willie to help tell his story without the need for words. I've used a technique that allows the textures of his skin, the fabric of his shirt, and the details of his guitar to emerge, how they appear in reality, yet painted with a narrative intent. Naturally, your eye is drawn to the focal point, his face, but I also really wanted to encourage attention to his hands. They are powerful storytellers in their own right. Every crease, callus, and scar records a story of a person's life. Painting hands has been my nemesis, and quite often I'll avoid them at all costs. But part of being an artist is learning to challenge yourself and to step out and do things that you're scared of. Hands are made up of tiny small bones, tendons, and muscles that allow for a wide range of motion. Each finger can bend in multiple places, creating intricate poses. So it's important to understand the bones like the metacarpals and the muscle groups, and even look at your real hands as you're painting, or photo references help with the realism as well. So to start, I like to simplify my shapes. break hands into blocks or cylinders to get the structure right. A minor mistake in proportion, like a finger being too short or too thick and tends to look like a sausage, can make the entire hand look wrong. Hands are very three-dimensional, so pay close attention to how the light defines the form. Use coarse shadows and reflected light to show depth. His hands are worn, not smooth or idle, weathered and full of quiet authority. They suggest working hands, aged with time and use. There's a strength in them, but not the kind that needs to prove anything. It's the kind that's earned over decades. Together, his hands and the guitar speak of a life shaped by sound, travel, grit, long roads and definitely soul. You can almost feel the rhythm resting in those callous fingers, like they're waiting to come to life again, pick out a tune or whisper another story through chord and melody. Painting glasses in a portrait is a fantastic opportunity to add realism and character. But I'll come back to talking about painting glasses a little bit later. Quite often when we come to paint skin tones, we've got a tendency just to jump in, mix up a peach colour and just want to paint it all peach. But to create realistic skin tones, it's essential not just to paint flesh colour. When you look at skin, it's made up of a wide range of hues depending on the individual's age, lighting and environment, and also the subtle variations in human complexion. Every single patch of skin can contain reds, yellows, blues, greens, purples and even greys. Here I've used cool undertones of blues and purples for the creases and the shadows, and warm tones of yellow, red and oranges, especially around the cheeks and the nose area, indicating blood flow and warmth. Back to painting glasses, it requires understanding of how light interacts with transparent materials, such as glass. Lenses are transparent, slightly refractive. They distort, reflect and catch the light differently. So when I talk about refracting, it means that the lens bends the light. This can distort the features behind the glass. Far-sighted lenses can make eyes and the nose bridge appear larger, whereas near-sighted lenses make features appear smaller or shifted. Lenses can also reflect the light, depending on the angle and the light source. These highlights often can have some pretty cool colours in the reflections. They may catch light from windows, lamps, or just the ambient environment. So your lenses should be slightly lighter or blurrier than the surrounding area. Use soft, low opacity glazes or gentle dry brushing to show a subtle haze. When painting the beard, you don't want to think of the beard and the face as separate things, but you want them to be unified, and you want to be able to see some of the pink and the cool tones visible beneath the white hairs. I introduced some cooler shadows, purples, blues and greys, especially under the hat brim, around the neck and the temples. This reinforces the light direction and helps push these areas back. Through the use of calming blue and green hues, I convey a sense of peace, of someone who knows exactly who he is and no longer feels the need to explain himself. I used a paint pen to bring up the highlights of the light hitting the little hairs of his beard. One of the problems I find with acrylic paint is that as the painting dries, sometimes the highlights can be lost. So the final thing I do with my painting is adjust the highlights. His confident posture, relaxed stance and playful expression hint at a rich, well-lived history and offer a sense of nostalgia and musical legacy. The way he holds the guitar, casually, as though it is simply part of him, speaks volumes. He doesn't grip it tightly, he doesn't need to. This is a man who lives his music and has shared it for years, on porches, in bars, at gatherings, and in our very own community. where he is known and celebrated simply as Rattlesnake Willie, as his guitar boldly announces.